In Chief Architect, you have two different types of dimension tools. If we go up here to the CAD drop-down menu and down to Dimensions, you see here that I have my manual dimension tools and my automatic dimension tools. In this video, we'll discuss the manual dimension tools. You'll also find the Dimension Tools parent tool in your toolbar. If we look for this yellow ruler icon, we'll find it right here in our toolbar. Any one of these tools with a small arrow next to it is a parent tool and holds child tools underneath it. We'll start here with the manual dimension. To use the manual dimension tool, you'll activate it by clicking on it here, and then click and drag a line close to the objects that you want to dimension. As I drag this line, you can see that the dimension tool places an extension at the start point, which is the corner of the wall. And then as soon as I reach the next locatable object, the side of the window, it'll place another extension line. As I continue to drag my line, it'll find the next locatable object and place another extension. It'll go next to the wall, the side of this window, the opposite side of that window, and again to the corner of the wall. Once you've placed a dimension line, you can edit it. If I click here on the dimension line, I'll get the Move Edit handle as indicated by the two-way arrow. If I click and drag this up, I can move the line. The line will only move in the directions that the arrows indicate. If I drag to the right or to the left, it won't move. It'll only move up and down. When you click on the dimension line, you'll also get the diamond-shaped edit handles. These are your extension edit handles. You can remove extensions, add extensions, or move extensions. If I want to remove this extension line to this side of the window, I'll select this edit handle and drag it away from the dimension line. It'll remove that extension. If I want to move this extension line from the side of the window to the center, I'll click on this diamond edit handle and move it to the middle snap point. If I try to move this extension line to the side of the wall which is not a locatable object, if I release, it'll simply remove that extension. If you want a new extension line, we can use this dangling diamond edit handle below the Move Edit handle on the dimension line. Select this dangling diamond edit handle and drag it to the object that you want to dimension to. You also have a different type of edit handle. If I click on the extension line rather than the dimension line, I'll get square edit handles on each extension. With these, you can lengthen or shorten each of these extensions. You'll also notice when I click on that dimension line that each of the extension lines are numbered 1, 2, 3. I'll use my Open Object tool at the bottom left-hand corner of my screen to open up the dimension line specification. In here you can see that I'm using the 1/4 inch scale dimension defaults. I can edit these dimension defaults by clicking on Define. Editing your dimension defaults is covered in more detail in another video. If we go over here to Extensions and Markers, you can see here that I can select an extension line to edit. This extension line at the center of this window is extension line number 2. So I'll select this extension line number 2 and come down here and mark it as a center line. If I click on Mark as Center Line and then click OK, it'll change the line type to a centerline line type, and it'll add the centerline symbol at the top of the extension. You can also move the numbers on the extension line. If I select this extension line, there's a small edit handle on top of this number 9. If I select that, I can move the number out. If the numbers on your dimension line are too close together, you may want to move them so they're more readable. You can use your dimension lines to move objects that are associated with that dimension line. For instance, if I select this window and activate the Move Edit handle on the window, and then click on this dimension, I can move this window by typing in a different dimension. I'll move that window back into position by clicking on my Undo button, and then select this dimension line and delete it. Then we'll go back to our Dimension Tools parent tool and click on the drop-down. The second dimension tool is the End-to-End dimension tool. If I activate this tool and again start to draw a line close to the objects that I want to dimension, it'll find the first two objects and place extension lines to each, the corner of the wall and the side of the window. But as I move down the wall, it'll drop that second extension line and find the other side of the window and place one dimension between those two objects. As I continue, you can see that it'll drop that first extension line and only place 2 extension lines. So this dimension will go from one end to the other end where I've drawn my dimension line. We'll go back to the Dimension Tools parent tool and go to our angular dimension. The Angle Dimension tool will dimension the angle between two objects, like these two walls. To use this tool, I'll simply click and drag a line between this wall and this one to place an angle dimension. Again, I can select this dimension and move it by using the Move Edit handle. If I move it to the opposite side of the pivot point of this dimension, it'll give me the opposite angle. If I select one of the walls that are associated with this angle dimension, and then click on the angle number, I can change the angle here, and it will move the wall. Now we'll go ahead and fill the window with the building, and we'll take a look at another dimension tool. This one is the Interior Dimension tool. The Interior Dimension tool will place dimension lines inside of each room to measure the width of each room from the inside of the wall to the inside of the wall. Again, you can move these dimension lines, and you can move your walls that are associated with the extension lines by using the dimensions. If we look very closely at where these extension lines are snapping to, if I select my dimension line, you can see that these extension lines are going to the main layer of each side of this wall. The settings for where your extension lines will go to, again, are in your dimension defaults. If we go to the Default Settings button, click on the arrow for dimensions and double-click on dimensions here, click on Edit, and go to Locate Objects. The dimensions will locate your walls at the wall's dimension layer, which is usually the main layer or framing layer of the wall. If you want them to go to the surface or the drywall layer of the wall, you can select Surface. I'll go ahead and fill the window again with the building and remove my interior dimensions. And we'll take a look at another dimension tool. This dimension tool is the point-to-point dimension. If I click on this dimension and then click and drag a line between two objects, the dimension will snap to each of these objects. However, you want to be very careful about this dimension tool because the dimension itself is not actually associated to the objects it's snapped to. For instance, if I select this wall and move it away from my dimension, you'll notice that the dimension itself did not change. The point-to-point dimension tool creates its own dimension points to dimension to. If I click here and then look down at the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, I can see the word Marker. This is your dimension point. I can use this tool to create a dimension where there are no objects to snap to. Chief will automatically generate a marker, or the dimension point, for this dimension line. Also, this dimension tool will not allow you to move objects using the dimensions. If I select this wall to move and then try to click on my dimension, it's not opening up the edit field to move that wall because this dimension line is not associated with the object. The next tool in our dimension tools is the baseline dimension. The baseline dimension works very much like the manual dimension tool. If I click and drag a line along this wall, it'll find the first object, place an extension, and a dimension. But as I move down to the next object, it'll place another extension and a separate dimension line, and then to the next object. For each object and each extension, it's creating a separate dimension line. Each of these dimensions are dimensioned from the start point, the corner of the wall. For the sake of demonstrating the next dimension tool, I've simplified the floor plan here a little bit. The running dimension is similar to the baseline dimension tool. When I click and drag a dimension line along this wall, it'll place the first extension line at the side of the window. The dimension, 4 feet, is from the start point, the end of the wall. As I continue to the other side of the window, it'll place another extension line and place another dimension. But the dimension, 7 feet, is from this side of this window, from the start point, the beginning of the wall. So each one of these dimensions, For instance, 22 feet is the dimension to the right side of this window from the start point, the beginning of the wall, as indicated by the circle on the dimension line. You also have your centerline dimension tool. To demonstrate this, first I'll zoom in a little bit to this window. And then we'll go to the centerline dimension tool and click and drag a dimension. But you'll notice that it's not finding the center of the window. Again, this is dependent on how the defaults are set up for your dimensions. Right now, my Locate Objects is set for my openings or doors and windows to go to the sides. So I'll have to select Centers so that my dimension will locate the window at the center line. I'll go ahead and delete this dimension and create another one. With my centerline dimension, when an object is dimensioned to its center line, Chief will automatically create the centerline line type and place the centerline symbol at the end of the extension. The last tool under your Dimension Tools parent tool is the Tape Measure tool. The Tape Measure tool, unlike the other dimension tools, does not leave a permanent dimension. If I click on this wall, hold down my mouse key, and drag a line to this next wall, the dimension tool will snap to the other wall and give me a dimension. But as soon as I let go of the mouse button, the dimension snaps back just like a tape measure. It doesn't leave a permanent dimension. All of these tools will work similarly in your orthographic views, like cross-sections and elevations. In the next video, we'll discuss the automatic dimension tools.